Is it working? Hello. Welcome to my kitchen. So, I shared a picture about this earlier. This is what I was doing today when the kids were at art class. I have my new highlighter, which is super cool. It's kind of like a wax crayon. I'm not very sure about it, but I think it's less likely to melt than my old highlighter. So yeah, I've started reading for my paper that I'm writing. So for anybody who's not done a paper or read a paper or come across them, you start off with, I've just had a shower as well, now everyone's finally asleep. So you start with a literature review, which means you look at all the other stuff that has come before you, all the other stuff that has led you to this point. So my paper is in parenting, and it's going to be using quantitative, which means like numbers, data, and qualitative, as in what people talk about, which you can't turn that into a graph. But together they make quite a powerful, connection. It builds up a richer picture. And the paper that I started reading today is about, bear with me because there's some really good stuff after the geeking, is about how we assess, this one particular one is about mothers, about how we assess the views that people parent off of. So, this is incredible because we already knew this, but to know that it's actually data there, to know that there is nothing wrong with us when we do or say things that we wish we hadn't done. She's still not asleep, but she's joining me. We're working together. Yeah, off you go. To know that there is nothing wrong with this, because scientifically speaking, there is a reason why sometimes we fly off the handle. There is a reason why sometimes we can't manage to be the parents that we want to be, that we set out to be, that we beat ourselves up for not being. So this paper is about implicit and explicit attitudes and attributions. So implicit, it's attributions, it's things that we think about our kids when they do things. For example, that's very wordy. So for example, a child does something, they another kid takes their toy and they hit that kid. And we as adults, I think as children, but we certainly as adults, we make assumptions about that child based on it. And what my research is looking into, my research is about cycle breaking, and the crux of what I want to look at when I actually do the research and the write-up is, what is it that makes some people from dysfunctional backgrounds able to and willing to break the cycle? And what is it that makes other people from the same backgrounds not able and not willing to, and thus repeat the pattern through, so we have intergenerational dysfunction? This is what I'm looking at. And of course, the question is, well, how do you assess that? It's a ridiculously big question. So here's what I found. So this study, which is, I've written it down, Johnson et al., 2017. What they did was they gave mothers, this one is only about mothers, not fathers as well. They gave mothers questionnaires. And the questionnaires, so they wrote down, they call them vignettes of children's behaviour. So they had examples of children's behaviour, and then they had questionnaires. What is this child doing? What do you think about this child? What attributions, this is where the terminology comes in, what attributions are you making about this child? And there was also another questionnaire, there's two. So there's one is, here's something that happened, what do you think about it? And obviously, it's structured in a way that can be turned into a graph. Very much disagree, somewhat disagree, neutral, that kind of scale. And another one, the other questionnaire is self-reported, what the mother's views are of herself and her parenting and how she parents and what she does and why she does it. Now, here's the interesting bit. They did it in two conditions. One condition had to do the questionnaires at the same time as doing a, what do they call it? Low cognitive load. So they were like, building a tower with blocks whilst filling in this questionnaire. no brain power really. I mean, low cognitive load. It doesn't take very much. So essentially, you're able to do this. And the other condition, they did it with high cognitive load, which means they were doing complex tasks at the same time. What did they learn? They learned that there are two ways that we make assumptions about how and why we are going to make a decision in our parenting. It's just, I'm actually going to flip through the paper to give you an exact quote because it blew my mind whilst I was sitting on the floor outside the Big Two's art class today. So it talks about the two-step process which underlines judgments about the causes of children's behaviour. There are two ways that we make judgments, and the judgment obviously means whether we say we punish because we think somebody is being, quote, bad, or whether we support a child through behaviour because our judgment is, oh no, there's something going on right now, let's support this child through it. So there's the two-step process for making that assumption. One is automatically activated from the working memory, which means it's your subconscious. The first step, this is in research going all the way back to 1988, and it's been borne out all the way up to this most recent study into this exact area in 2017. It's your underlying assumptions, and ours, it's mine as well, our underlying assumptions are the first step in summarizing any situation that we're in with a child where there's a form of conflict. So first is our knee-jerk response, and it goes straight back into our working memory where we go through that file. I know in America they call it like a Rolodex. I have an American client and I'm learning so much terminology from her. And so we go through this little Rolodex of, what happens in this situation? And it pulls out what we're going to do. So we go back to our old biases. And the second is that initial bias is filtered through current right now cognitive processing. So, as in, that's a really awful thing to do. This is our, going back to our working memory where we're pulling out things from our long-term memory and we're going, okay, so this is what I believe about this because this is what I've been taught. This is our subconscious belief is being activated by a situation. And then we have another layer on top of that, second step, which is where it's, what do they call it? Cognitively effortful. So we think it through. So you have your knee-jerk reaction, which comes from your subconscious, and then you explicitly, so that's your implicit processing, and then you explicitly change it slightly because things that maybe that person is sick, maybe that person has been bullied, or maybe that person is hungry, and you go, oh, actually, yeah, that's true, but they're probably also hungry, and then you deal with it accordingly. Now, why you were hungry today? So why am I sharing this with you? Because it's a bit dry. The reason I'm sharing it with you is because it's massive. It's positive because it shows, the things that it shows are, it's not a fault that we carry. It is human nature. It is scientifically, psychologically shown that our knee-jerk first response when we are stressed, this is the other bit, that the people who were filling out the questionnaires, the people who were being questioned under low cognitive load, as in the menial task where they weren't using brain power, they came off as much more patient, much more sensitive, much more nurturing. Whereas the other condition, where they were given lots and lots of brain power sapping tasks where they had to really think about it, they came out being quicker to judge, punishing more, spending less time. This was really interesting. They tracked the eye movements. They were spending less time reading the vignettes, like the stories of what a child did. They were spending less time doing it, and afterwards they found out that people were just weren't reading it that quickly, because as soon as their unconscious or subconscious conditioning was triggered, they were like, oh yeah, no, that's horrible. And so they weren't adding that second layer of explicit. So what does that teach us? One, excited, throw my highlighter. That teaches us, one, it is normal that it's your subconscious reaction comes before your explicit. Two, you cannot just change your mind. You cannot overnight become the parent that you want to be. You have to go back in and address this subconscious stories that you carry. And until you do the work, whether it's with somebody like me, whether it's by reading a book, whether it's through TED Talks and podcasts, whether it's through meditation and reflection, whatever, until you do it, until you do the work, capital T, capital W, and you go back and unpick, why do I have these subconscious views? Where do they come from? Are they right? Are they true? Are they serving me? Do I have to live by them? You don't. I'm just putting it out there. Loads of people have, with me and with other people, have come through the other side. And then you will be able to free yourself and be able to have a softer implicit response, the knee-jerk response, and then also activate your parenting skills, your ability to go, breathe, okay, what is really going on in this situation? This is the explicit, this is the modification where our conscious brain comes in and goes, okay, so this is my subconscious, this is my conscious. Okay, is that accurate? Maybe they are hungry, maybe they're tired. Actually, they were sick a couple of days ago. That's probably why they're grumpy. This is the conscious mind modification. It also shows us that if in low cognitive load, i.e. not using lots of brain power, we are able to be more sensitive parents. And then in high cognitive load, i.e. when we have a million, billion, trillion things to do, we are more likely to snap to being punishy, being shouty, being passive aggressive, being angry, and assuming the worst of, well, children and other people. It shows us that we can also change it. So we can change it two ways. One is the really powerful, go to the root, go to the subconscious, work it through with somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm so excited about this because it just, there's a reason why I picked this one out of 5. Couldn't tell you the reason at the time because they all look the same from the front cover. This is why. So, there's two ways. So one is to go back and do the work out why your subconscious views are there, unpick them, replace them with ones that haven't been given to you by somebody else, replace them with positive things that serve you, serve your family, move your family forwards. And the other way is to not have high cognitive load. What does that mean? It means look after yourself. It means self-care. Can you just cover your ears, please, darling? Just cover your ears. Self-care isn't bullshit. Okay, you can draw now. It's legit. It's a real thing. Looking after yourself, reducing your cognitive load so you don't feel like a chicken running around in circles doing absolutely everything in the entire world with a soundtrack of Flight of the Bumblebee. If you feel like that, you are going to go to snap judgments. You are going to be more likely to be punishy and shouty. And we all know this, but it's true. It's come out. Thinking, oh, that's so lovely. Oh my gosh. I swear I didn't set that up. That's so lovely. Thank you, Sophie. So yeah, it's true that when we are really stressed out, we're more likely to snap. I mean, of course, every single person in the world anecdotally knows this. It's borne out by the research. So if high cognitive load, doing too many things, makes you more likely to snap and shout and not be the parent you want to be, and to make more negative assumptions about why people around you do the things that they do, then and we know, I mean, it's not just this paper references loads of other papers. So if we know that low cognitive load, so when we're not under huge pressure, we are able to access the conscious parent. We're able to acknowledge that we have this, oh yes, we have a knee jerk. It's from my subconscious. It comes from my past stories. And, but I can modify it with my conscious thought. If we know that that process is easier, then we can help ourselves to become the parents that we want to be by reducing the cognitive load. And that basically means go through your life and thinking, what do I not need to do? Or reducing your cognitive load by meditating, by calming all of that. And if you need help with that, just send me a message, because if meditating and calming things is what people would like to see, then I can absolutely do that, because that has been huge for me. I meditate between 20 minutes and an hour a day, and I work, and I have children, and when they go to bed or don't go to bed, as the case may be, I have to work. So, if I can fit it in, you can fit it in somewhere. So we can do things that reduce our cognitive load. We can say no. We can not take more things on. We can say, actually, I'm not going to sort everything out every day. I am going to leave my desk like this. And then on Fridays, I will clean it up, which is what we do. These are our home education resource drawers. They are all, let me show you again. They're all labelled and stuff, and the kids go in and get their own stuff as and when they see fit, because it's very much a self-directed learning household, which means it's a mess. That's what it means. And I don't want the high cognitive load of sorting that out every day. Don't want it. Also, it's a mess as soon as anyone goes in it, which is fine. But I've now chosen that I only sort it out on Fridays or Saturdays, and then we have a nice calm weekend done. That many of you know that because I live in Vietnam, we can afford help in the home. It's one of the reasons we moved here. I'm not saying everyone should move to Vietnam, although it is wonderful here. But maybe you can outsource a couple of meals. Maybe you can get a dinner making co-op with your friends. I did that at one point with a friend who's a single mom in Yorkshire. I used to double cook at the weekend, and she used to double cook at the weekend, and then we'd swap. One day a week where you don't have to cook. It's about being creative. But if you now know from here that the way to, I'm just going to summarize it again because I am so excited. I was literally talking to myself outside art class when I was highlighting this. Yeah, 2 ways to be the parent you want to be. 1, go deep, address the subconscious, because I've just told you, based on what research from 1988 onwards, as in it's been supported from 1988, it's been tested repeatedly and has been borne out. The way we make our decisions about why somebody behaves a certain way is 1, subconscious trigger. What do our stories tell us about people in this same situation? So if you have negative ones and you have distrustful ones, that's where you go straight away. Many of us know this already. And then 2, conscious thought to modify that initial response. And you are able to do that process better and think better of other people if you have a low cognitive load, as in if your brain is not about to explode. Which means if you look after yourself and you pare back all of the things that you have to do, you will be a happier parent. I'm going to write this up as a big text post because the world needs to hear it. It's amazing. I am really, really positive about this because we can change things. It's great. Okay, have a really lovely, well, it's 9:15 here. So I'm going to go help my 6-year-old go to bed. And
night or morning.
Yeah, have a lovely, Sophia says, have a lovely night or morning. Bye.
Some of them live in England and some of them live in Vietnam.